Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about transit Chiron conjunct one's natal south node. When we're talking about transits that involve Chiron, they can be about physical and emotional wounds, suffering, anguish, helping, healing. And when transit Chiron conjoins one's natal south node, well, this may manifest in physical and emotional wounds, helping and healing, suffering. It could be in something connected with our past. In some cases, it could be somebody that comes out of our past. That's from our past that resurfaces. That might cause some issues for us. Say if it's in Taurus or the second house, it could be something of a monetary nature. Or, could even be, say if it's in the seventh house, it could be like somebody that was an open adversary. And if it's in Capricorn in the seventh house, as an example, it could be somebody that was maybe bringing your reputation down to some degree. And again, this is something too. The South Node astrology can be connected with what we're getting away from. So in some cases, it could be a physical or emotional wound that is actually leaving us. So this could really manifest in a positive or negative fashion, or a combination of both. A lot of this conjunctions in astrology are neutral. It's very intensifying energy, but the thing is, a lot of how it manifests, whether it's manifests positively or negatively, can be predicated and dependent on the aspects it makes to other points in one's natal chart. And anyway, but this is also, South Node is about what we're leaving behind. So if there's something like where we were going through some suffering, or say we were lamenting, someone's lamenting over past hurt, perhaps say if this is in the zodiac sign Cancer, it could be somebody brooding or lamenting over some past hurt. This is what we may be deciding to leave behind at this time. But remember, the South Node is also connected with redundant and overdeveloped qualities. So, for example, if this falls out in Virgo, South Node in Virgo, in some cases, you remember that given that it's redundant and overdeveloped qualities of the sign, it can be somebody that may be hypochondriac or even germophobic. I don't know if that word still applies, so you may want to confer that on the internet, but this is something we're confirming on the internet. The thing about it, though, is, and it can be more suffering in connection with that. As an example, it might be something that starts to dominate, the person's thinking. In that example, spraying, like the person having to spray their feet with bug spray when they go into the house, or it can be something where, could say again, is that in that example, transit Chiron conjoining the South Node in Virgo. Another way it might be expressed might be very, somebody expressing being very critical or judgmental, and it's affecting them more to their detriment, perhaps than usual, since we're talking about Chiron contacting it. But on a positive note, the South Node can also reflect what one is naturally proficient in. And it's something where we might be able to heal others with what one is naturally proficient in. If it's in the sixth house or Virgo, it could be through some health related matter. If it's in, say if it's in Aquarius, it might be something, through astrology, or something, with computer service, repair, troubleshooting, something with electronics, how we can help someone, or just simply expressing selfless or altruistic qualities, humanitarian energy. Another thing, but the thing about this too, it's remember that the South Node can affect whatever energy it's hitting in a detrimental manner, detrimentally. So another thing too is that it may, in some cases when transit Chiron contacts the South Node, it may manifest, maybe exacerbating the wound to some degree, but the suffering, whether it's physical or mental or something of another nature, or a combination of all those things. But the thing about it is, remember, when you have a transit, it's like in this example, transit Chiron conjoined the natal south node, when it makes the separating, it starts to make that separating aspect, a lot of times that's when the effect can be dissipated and it starts to actually leave. When it makes that initial contact, when it makes the applying conjunction, and when it's exact or very close to exact, that's when it might be more intensified. Now, another thing. Now, for some of you may believe, some may not, but for those of you that believe in past lives, it might be somebody that might come back that that might have been a healer to you. As far as past lives, say if you have this in the South Node in Aries as an example, maybe there's maybe in some cases there might be anger issues, or maybe something happened has happened to your detriment as a result of being acrimonious or angry, or maybe difficulty in some cases. Maybe there was some expression of courage or fortitude, or acting out impulsively, unnecessarily, that led to to your detriment. Someone from your past life may be coming around and helping you with those issues. But that is if you do believe in past lives in this. But anyway, now another way this could manifest, this could be about the deepest wound being connected with this energy, to its detriment. So in other words, Chiron can be associated with the deepest wound we feel. And the fact that it's heading the south node, it may be that deep wound. The suffering may be exacerbated, but at the same time may actually be leaving, I would say, especially when it makes the separating conjunction aspect. And the thing about this is, say if this is in Virgo, going back to Virgo again, let's say if this falls in Virgo in the 5th house as an example, it could be, a person that might be overly judgmental or critical, just Virgo, of lovers or children. It might be, maybe that's exacerbated that energy at this time, and it may also be getting ready to leave, at least for some time being, that energy. It might be an opportunity to dissolve that, but at the same time, it could also be, this transit can also be expressed in helping and healing, in doing something that's associated with what you're naturally proficient or adept in. Now, let's say, for example, going back to the zodiac sign Aries, if this falls in Aries in the 2nd house, it could be showing aggression, enterprise, and initiative, courage, and monetary matters, being able to take, encourage others to take that step to do what they have to do to help themselves and be, say, very self-reliant in generating income. Because remember that Chiron is the wounded healer. It can reflect ways that we can help someone else out, but we have difficulty in helping ourselves in those same aspects or areas in life. Now, or it could even be going back to, say if this falls in Aries in the 12th house as another example, it could be expressed in combating, which is Aries, hidden adversaries, which is the 12th house, and people that may be impersonating themselves as friends to you, as an example, or simply training somebody in some self-defense or martial arts to fight people that may wind up being an adversary at that time to fight in self-defense. Someone trying to rob you, for example, or something like that. But anyway. But it could also, another thing too, again, this could manifest in a physical wound that may be leaving. Now, say if this falls in Capricorn as an example, it could be a gallbladder or a gallstone removal. Libra, it could be a kidney stone that may be passing as another example. Chiron can also be associated with depleted self-esteem or self-worth. So when you have this transit of Chiron contacting the natal south node, it may be expressed in really the depleted self-esteem or self-worth that is connected with the negative expression of the placement of the south node. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, now say if it's in Gemini, as an example, it could be, a person that might be dissipating that self through lack of an integrating purpose, or expressing vicariousness, being overly garrulous, excessive talking, and it might be, you say, well, how can that be connected with one's depleted self-esteem or self-worth? Well, I would say, especially the first part of that statement I talked about, where someone may, in that example, dissipating the self through lack of an integrating purpose, because when you do that, if you don't follow through on anything, it could result in not being fully trained in a certain area, as far as what could be connected with a career, vocation, or what have you, and you're not able to maybe follow up on it in a profession. As an example, vicariousness, of course, living through somebody else's experiences rather than your own. Excessive talking, garrulousness, that could be something that might turn some people off, and of course that could affect you to your detriment. In that example, if this fell in Gemini, now, the Chiron is also associated with our ineptitude, or where we may feel inept, and sometimes we may really be inept in that area. Now, it could be some ineptitude, from our past may resurface at this time. Say if this falls in Taurus in the 8th house as an example, there might be something about being inept in matters being composed or unflappable, which would be Taurus, in a crisis situation. And crisis, of course, is associated with the 8th house. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.